Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Clutter. I'm your host, Margo, a professional organizer specializing in chronic clutter. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and it is clutter blindness. If you've never heard the term, I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to teach you what it is and how this can be preventing you from finding that motivation to start decluttering your home. So clutter blindness is basically when you've gotten so used to the stuff piled around you that you don't see it anymore. It's literally like your brain's way of protecting you from the overwhelm. But here's the problem. The clutter is actually still impacting your life, whether you see it or you don't. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's laziness. Don't you see that, your home has to be decluttered and there's just so much stuff. Why don't you just roll up your sleeves and get it done? But the truth is that's not how our brain works. And for so many people and so many of the clients that I work with, they literally just don't see how badly the clutter problem has gotten out of hand in their home because they have become, to a certain extent, desensitized to actually seeing it. And trust me, I've been there. My home once felt like one giant obstacle course. Shoes in the hallway, mail taking over the kitchen counter, clothing everywhere. It was like living in a hot mess and a never-ending scavenger hunt. Like, you ever find yourself going like, I need batteries for the remote control. Oh my goodness, where are they? And you spent like 30 minutes looking for them. That's a clutter problem. That's also an organization problem. But as you all know, we declutter first and then we organize. And the truth is that the clutter might actually be out of sight and therefore out of mind, but it's actually still causing you stress. And studies show that clutter actually messes with our focus, our productivity, and even our mental health. I have an entire podcast episode on how clutter impacts our physical and mental well-being, and it's just so real. So if you're constantly feeling overwhelmed or anxious, you want to take a look around your home. What is your space telling you? The good news is that you can actually break free from clutter blindness. And this is something I see again and again and again with my clients. So how do we open our eyes to the mess that will jumpstart the motivation to begin decluttering? Step one, and this is my favorite step of all, and probably something that's going to cause your anxiety to go up. This is something I teach in my How to Create a Decluttering Plan Masterclass. And I just see the women in the audience, just like their eyes are popping out of their head. And they're like, Margo, you want me to do what? And I'm like, trust the process. I've done this again and again and again, and it'll work. Okay. You don't want to skip this step. If you want to overcome clutter blindness, if you're somebody who's stuck, if you're procrastinating, if you suffer from decision fatigue and getting started, you want to start with something I call spot the hot spots. And what that means is the first thing you're going to do, because you're clutter blind, is you want to reconnect back to your home. So what does that look like? So think of this as if you are a realtor showing a home. So you're going to grab your cell phone. You are going to start at your entryway and you're going to walk around your home from room to room to closet, and you're going to take pictures of your space. I know, I'm like dead serious, okay? If you find yourself to be that person that's like, I've tried everything and it's not working and I just can't seem to get started, or a lot of times like we lose motivation and momentum. By the way, you cannot expect yourself to have motivation 24/7. It is not possible. A lot of times it's less motivation and more habit and self-discipline. So you're going to do a walkthrough of your home room by room, and you're going to take photographs. And what you will find is your stress levels going up. Okay, but it's short-lived, okay? I'm not selling it well here, but just trust me, okay? So when you look at your pictures, they'll actually show you things your eyes have been ignoring. When you look at the photo, you'll be like, wait, how long has that pile of magazines been on that coffee table? Sit with each photograph, and it's going to at first be overwhelming, but photos don't lie. It's not that you took a bad photo. This is not about taking good photos. This is not about taking bad photos. This is not a competition. This is not a comparison game. This, while it may feel a little bit painful in the beginning, it's just the first step to an incredible clutter-free home journey. So if you are clutter blind, if you're overwhelmed but desensitized and you don't really feel an urgency, and I think that's where it stems from, successfully achieving a clean and tidy clutter-free home that's easy to manage starts with commitment. And if you are clutter blind, it's incredibly challenging to commit yourself to your home and to this process. And when you take photographs of your home, it's going to be eye-opening. So you want to sit with each one of those photos and you want to reconnect back to your space. It'll be an eye-opening experience. Okay, so once the overwhelm has kind of subsided, because it will happen. Like I look, I'm not telling you this is going to be an easy peasy process, because it's not. But I want to make sure that you commit to the process, you establish routines. I'm going to talk about how to even start, right? So it's like, yes, now your eyes are open. You see all this clutter. It's probably more clutter than you've seen before. It's overwhelming. Oh my goodness, I don't want you to go into paralysis mode. Right? That's not the point of this activity. The point of this activity is to overcome clutter blindness. It's almost like to snap you out of the fog that you've been in, living day in and day out inside your home, allowing it to make you feel stressed and anxious, okay? This will help you kind of jumpstart, right? And the next thing that you're going to do is that you're going to simply start small, okay? I love gentle decluttering, right? It's less about how big of a project you take on and give up halfway through, and more about consistency. My two favorite C words in the decluttering coaching space is commitment and consistency. So it's less about big projects and more about being consistent. So do not overwhelm yourself by trying to declutter your entire house in a day. It's not going to happen. Even decluttering an entire room, it's not going to happen. It's overwhelming. You're going to literally be like, nope, not going to do it. Procrastination kicks in. Procrastination is very much real. And it'll make you just want to curl up in a ball and cry. We don't want that to happen. So instead, you want to start with something small, right? You want to choose a drawer. You want to choose a shelf. You want to choose maybe a box that's been sitting in your living room. If a box is too much for you to handle to begin with, do a couple of items. You can choose 10 to 15 beauty products, right? It doesn't matter, right? You pick one small thing to tackle. You set an alarm for 10 to 15 minutes and you declutter. You will be amazed at how much progress you can make. So again, it's less about marathons and more about consistent sprints. I'm going to talk you through also how to create a decluttering schedule, because consistency is not like you chose a junk drawer, you did it, and then you don't declutter again for another 2 months. Like, this is something we want to avoid, and this is why creating a decluttering schedule is so important. I actually have an entire masterclass that teaches you specifically how to create a decluttering plan for your home, and it'll save you a ton of time and decision fatigue, and you're going to see results within the first 30 days. So we're starting small, right? Reassess your mindset. Okay, I know, big picture, lots of clutter, where we're not going to be tackling an entire space. So what you want to do is you want to create a little to-do list of small tasks you wish to declutter: drawers, cabinets, boxes, beauty products, like I mentioned earlier, right? You want to set that alarm for, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And when the timer goes off, you want to stop, okay? I cannot stress this enough. Seriously, having an alarm clock is a game changer, because decluttering can feel endless, but breaking it up makes it manageable and keeps you from burning out. I also want you to be mindful and kind of don't inflate your goal, right? I discourage you and I discourage my clients from saying like, Margo, I'm going to declutter, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. If you can, fantastic. Most of us just don't have that time. And what happens is you're going to burn out, and you're going to burn out really, really quickly. This only works for like 1 to 5% of people. If you're that person, fantastic. But for most of us, kind of decluttering in 10 to 20, 10 to 25, even like 10 to 30 minute increments is the best way to go. So you want to create a schedule and pencil in decluttering, just like you would cleaning your home, right? This is something that will help you overcome procrastination. And procrastination is one of the biggest roadblocks I see with my clients. The truth is that you've spent years accruing clutter and years telling yourself stories about how hard it will be to start. And the fact is, it's not as hard as you may think. Things are always scarier before we take action. And this is why I love gentle decluttering in sprints, because every single one of you can be like, okay, I have a maybe utensil drawer, right? Can we tackle a utensil drawer? And most of us will say, yes, we can. And even if for whatever reason you start to feel overwhelmed, whether it's mental health or chronic health, you begin to feel overwhelmed, just do a couple of items and call it a day. That is success. That is productivity. Again, keep in mind, it's always about consistency. It's not about how many items you're actually getting rid of. So create a little to-do list, maybe list out a couple of items or a couple of spaces, small spaces that you will be decluttering, and then commit to decluttering once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week. But just please make sure to set alarms. Another reason actually, I should say, that we set alarms is because decluttering is a new habit that you have to build. And it's going to be very, very easy for you to forget or get distracted by other things that you have to do, because life is crazy, right? We have 1,001 different things going on. So if you're like, I'm going to declutter 3 days a week, set 3 alarms in your phone. The alarm goes off, you start decluttering, have a secondary alarm for, 10 to 20 minutes, that goes off, you stop decluttering. This is the best way to build that habit, and you'll find 30 days in, 60 days in, you might not even need the alarms, or maybe you're decluttering for 30 minutes or even an hour because you've just fallen in love with the process. I see this happen again and again and again. So here's another thing I want to say about decluttering. Decluttering is a process. It's not a one-time event. You can't expect, especially if you're brand new to decluttering, this is a very unrealistic expectations. And especially if you're a perfectionist, this is probably really going to resonate with you. There is, first of all, no such thing as perfectly decluttering. Decluttering is subjective. What you consider clutter-free is very different than what I consider clutter-free, or what your neighbor considers clutter-free, or what people on Instagram that are showing off their beautifully, perfectly neat homes consider clutter-free, right? I mean, sometimes I see these homes on Instagram and I'm like, does nobody actually live there? Like, how in the world is your home like so perfectly tidy all the time? And don't get me wrong, I have a clean and tidy home, but I still declutter habitually. Obviously it takes me much faster now, but like, people live in this house. I have a child, I have a pet, like clutter naturally will make its way back into your home. And what I really want to share is that when I work with clients, we have multiple phases of decluttering. So phase 1 is like, we go from room to room to room, decluttering the home. And oftentimes, because we're new to the process and we still have attachments and things are sentimental, and we have the mindset of, just in case fallacy, what if I need it in the future? We're afraid to make the decision of maybe letting something go and it being a mistake, which, by the way, rarely happens, but it can, and it's okay. But again, with that said, round 1 of decluttering your home, you're going to be getting rid of 10 to 30% of your items. Okay, unless you go atomic and ruthless. I've had clients that get very, very angry at how their home is like suffocating them, and they just go completely atomic. So again, it's something that's rare, but it does happen. No. So with that said, the first time you're going through your home, room by room, shelf by shelf, drawer by drawer, box by box, product by product, you're getting rid of 10 to 30% of the items. And that is perfectly fine, right? That is totally fine. That is your journey. Now, what you need to understand is there's going to be round 2. There's going to be round 3. For some of you, there'll be round 4 and round 5. And what you will find is that the hardest round is round 1. And then you develop what I call a decluttering muscle, where naturally things change, right? Your mindset changes as your home begins to have less clutter. And it's this beautiful thing, right? a lot of times what you'll experience is that your health will actually improve. One of the things I noticed is that when I decluttered my kitchen, and again, the same goes for a lot of the lovely women in my community, when I decluttered my kitchen, I became more inclined to meal prep and cook healthier meals. I resorted less to like junk food and sporadic eating and actually enjoyed being in my kitchen. Why? Because my kitchen no longer looked like a hot mess. I finally had countertop space. Like nobody wants to meal prep when you have so much stuff in your kitchen that it's like physically suffocating you. Like it's not an environment that's conducive to like creativity, right? You're supposed to cook with love. You can't cook with love in a kitchen that's a mess. Like you just can't. So my point being that when you do your first round of decluttering, you're going to begin to walk into spaces of your home and feel relieved and feel good. And you're going to start to acknowledge that you're like, oh my God, this is because I have less stuff, which is then going to transition into I need even less stuff, right? Which is going to transition into like one of my clients recently sent me a voice note and she goes, Margo, I went to bed and I couldn't stop thinking about those cans of beans in my pantry. She's like, why do I need those cans of beans? And again, it's such a simple thing, but this is what happens when we are on our decluttering journey. And it's hard to kind of believe in that because you haven't started yet and you're not reaping the benefits of having less stuff. And this is why I encourage you to just start, right? We start with overcoming clutter blindness, reconnecting with our space that has the potential to be so beautiful and nurture you and make your chronic health and your mental health so much better and fuel your productivity and not demand so much of your attention and hours spent on cleaning. Like you could see how passionate about this I am because I've experienced it myself. And then I have the luxury to now hear my incredible client success stories, right? How they come in and they're like non-believers, like there's no way that this is going to work. And all of a sudden, room by room, it's like, Margo, I started eating healthier. Margo, I want to focus on exercising. Like all of these things, or like, Margo, I want to, prioritize self-care and set boundaries for myself and not, all of these beautiful things start to happen. So you want to trust the process, trust yourself. So your first round is going to be by far the hardest. But then round 2, it becomes easier to let go because you're seeing the results, right? Not only that, one of the things that also starts to happen is your buying habits change. So if you're somebody that's like sale at Target, yay, or maybe you do a lot of emotional shopping, I promise you that too will begin to change because you're going to value your home and how you feel in it. And you're going to think twice about bringing in an item, right? So you're going to have less of those moments of like impulse buys and more of something called mindful shopping. Everything is progress, not perfection, and it is commitment and consistency. And clutter-free is a lifestyle, and you don't have to be a minimalist. I am not a minimalist. Okay, I am minimalistic in my wardrobe. I barely own any clothing. Facts, I love it. I think I'm incredibly extreme when it comes to that, but I hate the decision fatigue of figuring out what to wear in the morning. It absolutely drives me nuts, but that's neither here nor there. My point is that you don't have to be a minimalist to have a clutter-free home. Clutter-free, again, is subjective. If you feel good in your space, if you're proud of your space, even if you're a maximalist, even if you have hundreds of books, but they're like well organized and displayed and you're proud of them, go for it. The most important thing is that you feel comfortable in your home and you're surrounded by things that make you feel good, serve a purpose, or make you happy. And finally, and kind of the last step to like, yes, we're overcoming clutter blindness, but sometimes we need a little extra support. Some folks can kind of get motivated, look at those photos, roll up their sleeves and get started. Some of us need additional help. And this is where getting the right support kind of comes in, right? So decluttering can feel at times like an uphill battle, especially when you're doing it alone. And that's where a little outside help can make all the difference. Whether it's a friend or a family member, or you guessed it, someone like me who's a decluttering coach, right? Having a coach in your corner can keep you motivated, accountable, and on track with your goals. So I am somebody that offers personalized coaching services that help you tackle your space, stay organized, and keep the clutter, most importantly, from creeping back in. And I'll leave a link in the show notes for more information on what working with me looks like as a decluttering coach. But asking for help can sometimes be the difference between starting today and starting from 5 years from now. And one of the things that I kind of want you to walk away with is that clutter, if we are doing nothing, right? If we're not purging, clutter is not going to get less. It's always going to get more. Clutter has a compounding effect. So you probably have noticed this in your home. When you leave something on the coffee table, all of a sudden more things begin to pile up. Clutter is magnetic, right? I wish it would, but it's not going to magically disappear. So if you procrastinate and if you wait too long, your clutter is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And really think about this. If you do nothing today or next week, what will your home look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? It's only going to continue to get worse. And unfortunately, it's going to continue to make you feel worse. And the beautiful thing about decluttering is that you are in control. I know that you might not feel that way right now. Like it might just feel incredibly overwhelming. And I totally sympathize because I have been there. But one of the things that empowered me was when I realized I am in control of all of my stuff. These are inanimate objects living in my space, not paying rent, draining my energy. What the heck? I didn't want to allow these things to do that to me anymore. So for me, it was the most empowering, inspiring moment when I realized I am in control of picking up that blender that I've never used and will never use and donating it. I am in control of getting rid of a bunch of beauty products that I haven't used in 2 years. I am in control of decluttering piles of magazines and paperwork. I am in control. And that is a beautiful thing. So kind of swapping that script of how we feel about clutter can also help you get motivated and start decluttering your home. Clutter blindness does not have to be your reality forever. So please take those small steps, be patient with yourself, and you're going to see clutter just little by little disappear from your space. Thank you so much for listening. As always, good luck on your decluttering journey, and remember to be good to yourself.